What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders 2 and another patch 19.5 Trials Era Hero Spotlight. Today we're going to take a look at the Flamethrower. Oh yeah. Let me go ahead and get rid of that pet. Now, one really interesting thing about the Flamethrower Tower is, with the exception of if you are using the Empowering Flame Shard, you can actually get a realistic number on the tooltip. So this is one defense that you don't necessarily have to test against the dummy. You get a pretty good idea of what's going on with it right on the tooltip. So let's go ahead and start off with a mark. Now, the same can be said about most towers right now. It is definitely all about the crit. So we're going to go with Power Transfer, Defense Critical Damage, and then Defense Rate. And let's slap one down and see what we do. We're at 315,000 damage per second. Not too shabby. And that, like I said, that is an accurate number. So the Flamethrower, as long as you're not using Empowering Flame, that's giving you a pretty close number as to what you're going to get on the dummy. You see here we are just maxing on the crit at 312,000 crit damage. So, what, 3 times a second, or almost 3 times a second, we have an opportunity to crit for 300k, and that's really where all that damage comes from. As we see, the regular attack damage is only 13,989 per pop. All about that crit. Now, let's go ahead and move right along to a Medallion. I'm going to use the exact same 3 shards. Defense Rate is one that I would never give up on this particular tower, so that's going to be a given. And I seem to get the best results just maximizing the crit and going for those. Now that raised me up just a tiny bit to 324,000, and the difference there is we see the attack damage is now 28k, and you know, still ripping them off every 0.34 seconds, so almost 3 opportunities to crit every single second for 274,000 damage. Now I gotta say, the relic I actually use on this particular tower is an orb, and here's why. I just like to see the flames spraying. I mean, if you're not having fun, you shouldn't be playing the game anyway, and using an orb on a flamethrower is nothing but fun to me. So I'm going to use the exact same 3 shards, Power Transfer, Defense Crit, and Defense Rate. Now this is actually going to show the lowest of the 3 on the tooltip, but all 3 of them are really close to each other. But I love getting off those 4 shots per second, and that's what this does, is it brings it all the way down to the absolute fastest you can get it going, which is 0.25. Now you do lose a tiny bit of attack rate by going with an orb and the defense rate shard. If you did the math on it, it would take it down to 0.24 seconds. So it's only a really slight amount. It's not near as much as some of the other defenses. So this is kind of the way I go, just because, like I said, I like to see the flames flying. Now, as you all know, I did not bring up... Where are we? Empowered Flame. Here's why. 15% chance to hit the target again for 180% damage. Now, 15% is a very low number. And sadly, the way probability works is not the same as the way statistics work, and that does not mean it's going to crit 15 times every 100 times it does damage. What that means is each individual shot is going to have a 15% chance to crit. Sometimes you're going to get lucky, sometimes you're not. It's almost never going to be exactly 15% over 100 shots. I personally get really similar results using Empowered Flame. However, I seem to get more consistent results going with the defense crit instead. Now, if you do want to use Empowered Flame and play around with it, you're going to see a much lower number on the tooltip, so you're going to want to get over to one of the dummies and check the DPS there, as you're not going to get an accurate number on the tooltip. Now, if we looked at this one over the course of 30 seconds, we would be pretty close to that 300,000 mark, and real close to being in line with the other defenses. It's actually dropping a little low on this one, or the other shards, pardon me. Dropping a little bit low. Seems like the proc rate is not going off, and that's the downside of using a shard like that. It it is 100% based off of lucky procs. And at a 15% chance, the chances are actually pretty low. Normally I will come right along really close to 300k and really close to the exact same that I do with using the additional critical damage. However, consistently, I seem to have better luck using defense critical damage instead. Now, this build will be effective in all tiers. The only limit you have, really, dependent on where your level is crit chance. Now, obviously, with 576 Ascension, I'm going to get a lot bigger numbers than someone with, say, 100 Ascension. However, the important thing is maximizing your defense critical chance. So you always want to go in full on the defense crit chance first. Now, I am pretty pleased with how the Gambit is scaling on flamethrowers these days. So after patch 19.5, I then went and maxed the Flamethrower Gambit next. And anything that I had left over, I put right into defense crit damage. Now, I am building this particular apprentice as my Frosty Apprentice as well, so my Ascension is a little funky there. I did go full into defense speed right out of the gates. However, I did maximize the Frostbite Tower slow by 10%, and I dumped the rest directly into flamethrower damage. Now, here's another thing to be said as far as Ascension goes. Flamethrowers are pretty darn squishy. So you're normally going to want to throw these flamethrowers out there in front. Now, of course, we see they've got like no health, 10,000 health. Now, the chances of them taking some incidental damage are a lot larger, considering that's an area a lot of times that heroes like to run around, and your flamethrowers could pretty easily get wrecked. So it almost makes more sense to not go so heavily into flamethrower damage and actually get some points into flamethrower health to get the health of that tower boosted up. Now, I personally don't do it because I'm very careful about my flamethrower placement. However, I do lose one from time to time, so a little defense health will go a long way. So that will do it for now. Thank you for watching. Click that like button and please subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments below what hero spotlight you want to see next. Thanks again. We'll see ya.